The biggest war games in the galaxy happened every year. All the strongest alien races came to show off their best warships and smartest tactics. For 300 years, the same powerful empires had dominated these competitions. Everyone knew who would win before the games even started. The Zephyrian Empire always impressed the crowds. Their ships looked like giant crystals that could bend light around them. They moved through space like dancers, graceful and deadly. The Corvan Federation brought massive battleships covered in so many weapons, they looked like floating cities of destruction. The Thax bugs flew in perfect swarms, thousands of small ships moving as one giant mind. This year was different. A new name appeared on the entry list: humanity. Most aliens had barely heard of humans. They knew Earth was some small planet near an ordinary yellow star. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, which was nothing compared to races that had been traveling space for thousands of years. To the older civilizations, humans seemed like children playing with toys they didn't understand. Captain Jake Morrison walked onto the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance. He was a tough man with gray hair and scars on his face from old battles. At 42 years old, he had fought in humanity's first wars with hostile aliens. Those fights had taught him something important about his own species. The Defiance looked nothing like the beautiful alien ships. Where other vessels had smooth curves and shiny metal, the human ship was all sharp angles and thick armor. Pieces of different alien technology had been welded onto the hull wherever they fit. The whole ship looked like it had been built in someone's garage, not a proper shipyard. Lisa Kane stood at the weapon station, checking their systems one more time. She was Morrison's second-in-command, a smart woman who understood both human and alien fighting styles. She looked up from her computer screen with a grim smile. "The betting odds are not good for us, Captain," she said. "Most bookmakers are giving us 500 to 1 against winning even our first fight." Morrison didn't look worried. He had served in battles where the odds were much worse than that. "Let them think we're weak," he said. "It will make things easier later." From the engine room came Alex Chen, the ship's chief engineer. His uniform was covered in grease and oil, but he wore a satisfied expression. Chen was a genius at making broken things work again. He had spent weeks modifying their ship's engines and weapons using salvaged alien parts. "The power systems are running perfectly," Chen reported. "We might not be the fastest ship in this competition, but we can fight at full strength longer than anyone else here." Outside the ship, the opening ceremonies began. Millions of aliens across the galaxy tuned in to watch their favorite military forces show off. Giant screens displayed the most impressive warships ever built. The Zephyrian fleet performed complex maneuvers that looked like an art form. Their crystalline hulls reflected light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The Corvan battleships demonstrated their firepower by destroying entire asteroids with single shots. Each ship carried enough weapons to level a planet. The pilots flew their massive vessels with surprising grace despite their enormous size. The Thax swarm put on the most spectacular show of all. 40,000 small fighters moved together like a school of fish in the ocean. They formed shapes and patterns in space that no individual pilot could create alone. Their hive mind allowed perfect coordination that other races could only dream of. When humanity's turn came to demonstrate their capabilities, the galactic audience fell silent. Only one human ship approached the demonstration area. The Defiance looked tiny compared to the alien superweapons that had performed before it. Morrison ordered basic maneuvers. The ship turned left, then right, then accelerated in a straight line. Their weapons fired at stationary targets, hitting them accurately but without any special effects or impressive explosions. The whole demonstration lasted less than 5 minutes. Alien sports commentators struggled to find positive things to say about the human performance. A Zephyrian announcer called it charmingly primitive. A Corvan military expert said the humans showed admirable determination despite obvious limitations. Even the kindest reviews suggested that humanity would provide entertainment value before being eliminated in the first round. What none of the alien observers understood was that humans had learned to fight differently than everyone else. While other races had spent centuries perfecting elegant battle tactics and sophisticated strategies, humans had learned to win ugly. They didn't care about looking good or following proper military procedures. They cared about survival. Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the alien fleets on the main screen. Each one represented thousands of years of military tradition and technological advancement. Their crews had trained from birth to operate the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. By every logical measure, humanity didn't belong in this competition. But humans had never been very good at accepting what logic said was impossible. All stations report ready for combat, Lisa announced. Engineering systems operating at optimal parameters, added Chen. Morrison nodded slowly. Around the galaxy, alien military experts were already writing analysis papers about primitive human technology and outdated fighting concepts. Sports betting establishments were paying out early bets against human success. None of them realized they were about to witness something that would change galactic warfare forever. The human ship might look crude and unimpressive, but it carried something that no amount of advanced technology could replicate. A crew that simply refused to lose. The real competition was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they could do when their backs were against the wall. The first elimination round began with 12 ships from different alien races. The rules were simple: fight until only 4 ships remained operational. The winners would advance to the next round, while the losers would be eliminated from the UAM competition. Morrison studied the other ships through his main screen. Each one represented the best military technology their species could build. The Zephyrian cruiser Star Whisper moved like liquid mercury, its crystal hull bending light in impossible ways. The massive Corvan battleship Iron Thunder looked like a floating weapons platform designed to destroy entire fleets. The Thax had brought 47 small fighters that moved as one organism. Every ship knew exactly what the others were thinking, making their coordination perfect. Other participants included stealth ships, automated defense platforms, and experimental vessels with weapons that most races had never seen before. Lisa studied the tactical display, watching how the other ships positioned themselves. Standard galactic military doctrine says we should form temporary alliances, she told Morrison. Work with weaker opponents to eliminate stronger ones first, then settle superiority among the survivors. Morrison looked at the massive Corvan battleship and smiled grimly. Then we'll do the exact opposite. We target the strongest ship first. Lisa stared at him. Captain, that ship has more firepower than a small moon. Their armor could deflect anything we can throw at it. Attacking them directly would be suicide. Maybe, Morrison agreed, but they won't expect it. The battle arena was a complex, three-dimensional maze filled with asteroids, artificial gravity fields, and energy clouds that blocked sensors. Most commanders would use this environment for cover, hiding behind obstacles while looking for advantages. When the engagement began, most ships adopted careful positions. They probed for weaknesses, formed temporary partnerships, and avoided unnecessary risks. The Zephyrian ship used its superior speed to dart between asteroids, taking precise shots at isolated targets. The Corvan battleship anchored itself in a defensive position, daring anyone to attack its overwhelming firepower. The Thax fighters split into hunting groups, using their numbers to surround and destroy individual opponents. Other ships maneuvered, cautiously, trying to position themselves for easy victories against damaged enemies. The Defiance did something that made every alien observer question human sanity. It flew directly toward the Corvan battleship at maximum speed. Galactic military. Experts watching the battle fell silent. Human tactical doctrine made no sense according to any known military philosophy. The ship was outnumbered, outgunned, and charging into certain destruction. Sports commentators began preparing to announce humanity's elimination. The Corvan battleship. Iron Thunder unleashed its full arsenal. Plasma beams, quantum torpedoes, and exotic particle weapons filled space around the approaching human vessel. Each shot carried enough destructive power to vaporize a smaller ship completely. The human ship didn't try to dodge. Instead, it absorbed the punishment while continuing its relentless advance. The Defiance's armor looked crude compared to alien, defensive systems, but it had been designed with a different philosophy in mind. Instead of deflecting damage elegantly, it simply absorbed terrible punishment and kept functioning. Chen's engine modifications proved their worth. While other ships would have been forced to reduce power to defensive systems under such bombardment, the Defiance maintained full combat capability. The ship fought like a wounded animal, seemingly irrational, but devastatingly effective. Hull, damage at 30%, Lisa reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Weapons systems still operational, engines holding steady. Keep firing, Morrison ordered. All weapons, concentrate on their forward shield generators. The breakthrough came when the human vessel closed to point-blank range. While Galactic naval doctrine emphasized long-range engagements and elegant maneuvering, humans had brought a knife-fighting mentality to space combat. At close range, the Defiance's weapons found weak points in the Corvan ship's defenses. More importantly, the human crew displayed an unnerving willingness to take damage in order to deal damage. They didn't retreat when their shields failed or when hull breaches appeared throughout their ship. Instead, they pressed their attack with desperate intensity. The Corvan crew had never faced opponents like this. Their massive ship had been designed to destroy enemies from safe distances using superior firepower. They had not planned for an enemy vessel that would deliberately enter their defensive perimeter and engage in close-quarters combat. In 12 minutes of brutal fighting, the Iron Thunder's main power systems failed. The massive battleship, Pride, of the Corvan fleet, went dark and began drifting helplessly through space. The galactic audience fell completely silent. Sports commentators struggled to find words to describe what they had just witnessed. The primitive human vessel emerged from the wreckage scarred and smoking, but still operational and ready to continue fighting. The other ships in the engagement suddenly realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated humanity based on appearances and assumptions. The crude-looking human vessel had just destroyed the most powerful ship in the competition, using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. The Zephyrian cruiser, Star Whisper, immediately changed its approach, no longer treating the human ship as easy prey. The Thack swarm reorganized its hunting patterns to account for an opponent that fought by completely different rules. The remaining competitors began emergency tactical reassessments. But it was too late. The psychological advantage had shifted completely. The humans had proven they could destroy superior opponents through sheer determination and unconventional thinking. More importantly, they had shown they were willing to take damage that other races would consider unacceptable. Over the next hour, the Defiance methodically eliminated 3 more opponents. Each engagement followed a similar pattern. The human ship would charge directly into enemy fire, absorb terrible punishment, then destroy its target through close-range combat that bordered on ramming attacks. When the smoke cleared, only 4 ships remained operational. The human vessel was among the survivors, its hull scarred and blackened but its crew ready for more fighting. They had advanced to the next round of competition. Across the galaxy, military academies began emergency sessions to analyze human combat doctrine. The phrase human tactics entered galactic vocabulary, and it carried undertones of barely controlled madness mixed with grudging respect. Admiral Vex Prime of the Zephyrian Empire watched recordings of the engagement with growing unease. His species had dominated galactic warfare for millennia through superior technology and refined tactics. The human approach was chaos given form, yet it achieved decisive results. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity represented something new and dangerous, a species that fought not just to win but to survive, and that could not be defeated by conventional means. The war games had changed completely. What began as a showcase of galactic military power had become something unprecedented, a detailed study of human combat psychology. Every remaining competitor was now focused on one question. How do you fight an enemy that doesn't follow rational tactical doctrine? The semi-final round presented the ultimate test. 4 vessels would race through a constantly changing obstacle course while fighting each other. The course included shifting asteroid fields controlled by artificial gravity, energy storms that disabled certain weapons, and spatial anomalies that could trap unwary ships. The human vessel. Defiance faced three opponents that represented different approaches to warfare. The Altarian stealth frigate Shadow Dancer was built for patience and precision, designed to remain hidden until delivering a single, perfect strike. The Thax Collective had reduced their force to 23 interconnected fighters, but their hive mind coordination remained flawless. The Nexus Alliance had entered their newest prototype, the Inevitability, a ship that represented pure technological superiority. Captain Morrison stood on his battle-damaged bridge, studying the tactical situation. The Defiance looked like it had fought in several wars, which it basically had. Armor plates were dented and scarred, weapon systems showed jury-rigged repairs, and the overall appearance had gone from functional to barely holding together. But crew morale had never been higher. They had proven something important to themselves and the galaxy. Humanity belonged in this fight. The Altarian ship will shadow us through the early stages, Lisa reported from her weapons station. They'll wait for the perfect moment to strike when we're distracted by other threats. The Thax will probe for weaknesses while avoiding direct confrontation. The Nexus ship will try to prove their technological superiority through direct combat. Alex, Chen emerged from another engineering miracle, somehow improving their systems using parts salvaged from previous victories. The energy storms in this course will actually help us. Our fusion reactors are more stable than the exotic power plants our opponents use. The course began with passage through an unstable nebula where sensor systems worked poorly. Most ships would proceed carefully, using long-range detection to avoid hazards and enemies. The human approach was characteristically direct, full speed ahead with active sensor sweeps that announced their position to everyone nearby. The Altarian ship, designed for stealth operations, found its primary advantage negated by an opponent that seemed indifferent to being detected. The Thax Collective, accustomed to coordinating attacks from concealment, struggled against prey that actively sought confrontation. The Nexus prototype prepared to demonstrate superiority against an enemy that willingly entered optimal firing range. What followed was a running battle that redefined galactic understanding of naval combat. The human vessel fought like a cornered animal, taking damage that should have been mission-ending while returning fire with desperate intensity. The first challenge was an asteroid field that shifted under artificial gravity manipulation. Massive, rocks moved in unpredictable patterns, creating a maze that changed every few minutes. Most commanders would navigate carefully, plotting safe routes and avoiding unnecessary risks. Morrison ordered maximum speed directly into the most dangerous section of the field. "Captain, the gravity wells are unstable," Lisa warned. "We could be crushed between asteroids or thrown off course by sudden field shifts." "That's exactly why we're going there," Morrison replied. "Our opponents won't follow us into the worst areas. They'll try to find safe routes around the danger zones." The Defiance plunged into the chaotic heart of the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as both cover and weapons. When the Altarian stealth ship finally revealed itself for a precision strike, the humans were ready. Not through superior sensors, but through the simple strategy of assuming they were being hunted and preparing accordingly. The moment the Shadow Dancer decloaked to fire, Morrison ordered emergency maneuvering that used a nearby asteroid as a shield. The Altarian weapon struck solid rock instead of human hull, while the Defiance's return fire caught their opponent in the open. The Thax Collective tried to coordinate a swarm attack, but found their hive mind disrupted by the chaotic environment. Their coordination had evolved for organized tactical situations, not the random violence of human combat doctrine. Individual fighters began making errors as the collective intelligence was overwhelmed. "The Nexus ship is closing fast," Lisa reported. "They're ignoring the environmental hazards and coming straight for us." The Inevitability was everything its name suggested, a vessel built to demonstrate that superior technology could overcome any opponent. Its weapons were more advanced than anything in the competition. Its defenses could absorb incredible punishment, and its crew had trained for years specifically for this moment. The engagement between the two ships became a test of philosophies. The Nexus vessel fought with mathematical precision, each shot calculated for maximum effect, every maneuver optimized for tactical advantage. Their weapons struck the Defiance repeatedly, causing severe damage to hull and systems. The human response was characteristically irrational. Instead of retreating to repair damage or seeking tactical advantages, the Defiance accelerated toward its opponent, while returning fire with every working weapon. Hull breach on Deck 7, Chen reported over the intercom. Life support failing, in sections 4 through 6. Weapon systems operating at 60% efficiency. Can we still fight? Morrison asked. We can still fight, Chen confirmed. The battle continued through the energy storm section of the course, where exotic radiation disabled different types of technology randomly. The Nexus ship's advanced systems began failing in unpredictable ways as their sophisticated electronics proved vulnerable to the harsh environment. The human ship, built from simpler and more robust technology, continued operating despite taking terrible damage. Their weapons might be primitive, but they worked. Their engines might be crude, but they provided power. Their life support might be failing, but the crew kept fighting. The decisive moment came when both ships were nearly disabled, limping through the final section of the course while exchanging point-blank fire. Any rational crew would have disengaged to make repairs and try again later. The humans didn't disengage. Instead, Morrison ordered an action that violated every principle of space combat, ramming speed with weapons fire. The Defiance accelerated toward the Nexus ship with clear intention to collide, while simultaneously firing every working weapon at their opponent's hull. The Nexus crew, faced with an opponent apparently willing to destroy both ships rather than lose, made the rational decision to surrender. Their superior technology and training had prepared them for many scenarios, but not for enemies who treated mutual destruction as an acceptable outcome. As the Defiance emerged victorious from the semi-final round, galactic military observers realized they were witnessing the birth of a new type of warfare, not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through sheer determination to win regardless of cost. The final round would pit humanity against the Zephyrian Empire's finest warship, commanded by their greatest admiral. Across the galaxy, beings who had initially dismissed humans as primitive curiosities now watched with fascination and growing concern. The humans had proven they could defeat superior opponents through unconventional tactics and unbreakable determination. Now they would face their ultimate test, an enemy that had studied their methods and prepared specifically to counter human warfare. The real question was whether humanity's greatest strength, their refusal to accept defeat, would be enough against an opponent that understood exactly what they were capable of doing. News of humanity's victory over the Corvin battleship spread through the galaxy like wildfire. What had started as entertainment was now being studied by military experts from every major civilization. The human tactical approach violated all established principles of space combat, yet it worked. Admiral Vex Prime of the Zephyrian Empire watched recordings of the battle for the 10th time. His species had ruled galactic warfare for thousands of years through perfect technology and mathematical precision. Their crystalline ships were works of art that moved like liquid light through space. The human ship looked like it had been built from scrap metal and held together with determination. Yet somehow, it had destroyed opponents that should have been impossible to defeat. Computer, analyze human combat patterns, the Admiral commanded. Analysis incomplete, the ship's artificial intelligence responded. Human decision-making does not follow known military logic. They prioritize aggression over survival and accept casualties that other species would find unacceptable. The second elimination round would test the remaining ships in a more complex environment. 3 vessels would fight in the wreckage field around a destroyed space station. The human ship would face the Zephyrian cruiser, Star Whisper, and a hegemony, automated defense platform. Captain Morrison gathered his senior staff in the damaged briefing room. The Defiance looked like it had been through a war, which in many ways it had. Burn marks covered the walls and several systems showed emergency repairs from their previous battle. The Zephyrians will try to use hit-and-run tactics, Lisa explained, pointing to a tactical display. Their ship is faster than ours and can appear and disappear using their cloaking technology. They'll strike from unexpected angles, then vanish before we can return fire. Alex Chen had been working non-stop to repair their battle damage while also preparing new surprises. The hegemony platform is basically a floating fortress. It has more guns than some planets and armor thick enough to stop anything we can throw at it. In a straight fight, it would destroy us easily. Morrison studied the battlefield layout on the main screen. The destroyed space station had created a debris field full of twisted metal, energy fields, and sensor shadows. Most commanders would see this as a complex tactical puzzle requiring careful navigation. What if we don't fight them directly? Morrison asked. What if we fight the environment instead? Chen's eyes lit up with understanding. The debris field contains enough volatile materials to create a chain reaction. If we could destabilize the right sections— That's insane, Lisa protested. You're talking about deliberately destroying the battlefield while we're still in it. We could be killed by our own tactics. But they won't expect it, Morrison replied. And unexpected is what we do best. The engagement began with both enemy ships demonstrating their advantages. The Zephyrian vessel immediately vanished from sensors, using advanced stealth technology to become nearly invisible. Only brief energy signatures revealed its position when it fired, and by then it had already moved somewhere else. The hegemony platform established a defensive position in the center of the debris field and began systematic bombardment. Its automated weapon systems could track and engage multiple targets simultaneously, while its shields absorbed incoming fire without difficulty. The human response was typically unconventional. Instead of trying to fight either opponent directly, the Defiance began attacking the debris field itself. Morrison ordered Chen's special modifications into action. Their torpedo launchers fired mining charges instead of standard warheads. These industrial explosives were designed to break apart asteroids for processing, but they worked just as well on space station wreckage. The first explosion triggered a cascade of secondary detonations. Fuel tanks ruptured, power cells overloaded, and structural supports collapsed in chain reactions that spread throughout the debris field. Within minutes, the carefully mapped battlefield became a chaos of flying metal and energy discharges. The Zephyrian cruiser's elegant stealth systems became a liability in the unpredictable environment. Their ship was designed for precise maneuvers, in controlled conditions, not for dodging random debris moving at high velocity. The pilot found himself overwhelmed by hazards coming from every direction. The hegemony platform's sophisticated targeting computers couldn't cope with thousands of small, unpredictable objects. Its weapon systems were designed to engage organized enemy formations, not swarms of debris that appeared and disappeared randomly. In the chaos, the Defiance used emergency beacon transmitters as decoys. These devices normally helped rescue ships find survivors, but Chen had modified them to broadcast false sensor signatures. Enemy targeting systems suddenly detected dozens of potential targets, most of which didn't exist. The human crew seemed comfortable operating in chaos that paralyzed their opponents, while the Zephyrian ship struggled to maintain stealth in the unstable environment, and the hegemony platform fired blindly at false targets. The Defiance moved through the destruction like it belonged there. Target the Zephyrian ship, Morrison ordered as sensors detected their opponent's location. They're trying to hide behind that large debris section. The Defiance fired a spread of mining charges at the wreckage the enemy ship was using for cover. The explosions didn't hit the Zephyrian vessel directly, but they didn't need to. The detonations sent chunks of debris flying in all directions, forcing the crystalline ship into the open. With their stealth advantage gone, the Zephyrian crew tried to escape the debris field, but the human ship was already moving to intercept them. The Star Whisper's superior speed meant nothing in an environment where high velocity could be fatal. The decisive moment came when Morrison ordered a tactic that no military academy had ever taught: ramming speed through a debris cloud while firing in all directions. The maneuver was mathematically impossible to survive and tactically insane. It was also completely effective. The Defiance emerged from the debris field like an ancient sea monster rising from deep water. The ship's hull was scarred and smoking. Several armor plates had been torn away and half their weapon systems showed damage. But they were still operational and ready to fight. Both enemy vessels had been disabled by the environmental chaos the humans had deliberately created. The Zephyrian ship's delicate systems had been overwhelmed by debris impacts, while the hegemony platform's weapons had been destroyed by the same explosions that gave it tactical advantage. Across the galaxy, military observers struggled to categorize what they had witnessed. The human approach wasn't just unconventional, it was revolutionary. They had turned the battlefield itself into a weapon and used environmental destruction as a tactical advantage. The phrase human warfare was entering common usage throughout galactic civilization, and it carried implications that made traditional military commanders nervous. These weren't just tactics, they represented a fundamentally different philosophy about combat and survival. As the Defiance limped away from the wreckage of its opponents, alien military academies began rewriting their textbooks. The humans had proven that superior technology and refined tactics could be defeated by sheer determination combined with creative thinking. More importantly, they had shown that conventional military wisdom might not apply when facing an opponent that refused to follow conventional rules. The galaxy was beginning to realize that humanity represented something genuinely new, a species that fought not just to win battles, but to survive against impossible odds. The final round of the War Games had become the most watched military event in galactic history. Beings across the galaxy gathered around screens to witness something that had never happened before, a primitive species challenging the established order of galactic warfare. The human vessel Defiance, now bearing scars from 4 major battles, faced its final opponent, the Zephyrian Empire's greatest warship, the Crystalline Symphony. Admiral Vex Prime himself commanded the vessel, bringing 3,000 years of military tradition and tactical expertise to the engagement. The Zephyrians had studied every second of human combat footage. Their computers had analyzed patterns, predicted responses, and developed countermeasures for every aspect of human warfare they had observed. The Symphony represented perfection in military engineering, crystalline structures that seemed to bend reality itself, weapons that appeared carved from pure energy, and defenses that flowed like liquid starlight. Captain Morrison stood on the EO bridge of the battered Defiance, studying his opponent through the main screen. The Zephyrian vessel was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at directly, like staring into the heart of a star. Everything about it spoke of advanced civilization and refined military science. "They've had time to prepare specifically for us," Lisa observed from her weapon station. "Every battle we've fought has given them data about our tactics and capabilities." Alex Chen wiped grease from his hands, having completed what he considered his masterpiece of battlefield engineering. The Defiance barely qualified as a single functional vessel anymore. It was more like a collection of salvaged systems held together by determination and creative welding. Yet somehow, all the critical systems still worked. "That's their weakness," Morrison replied calmly. "They think warfare is predictable. They believe tactics can be calculated and countered like mathematical equations. They're about to learn why humans have never lost a war we couldn't afford to lose." The final battle arena was deliberately simple: empty space with no environmental hazards, no obstacles, and no variables except the 2 vessels and their crews. Pure naval combat in its most refined form. Exactly the conditions where Zephyrian superiority should have been absolute. Admiral Vex Prime activated his ship's combat systems with confident precision. Every Zephyrian officer had trained for this moment their entire lives. Their tactical computers had calculated optimal responses to every possible human action. The Symphony's weapons and defenses operated at the peak of galactic military technology. The engagement began with the Admiral implementing a perfect textbook assault. The Symphony's weapons fired in precisely calculated patterns, each shot designed to force the human vessel into increasingly disadvantageous positions. Their defensive systems activated in layered configurations that created interlocking fields of protection. The human response was everything the Zephyrians had prepared for, and nothing they had expected. The Defiance charged directly into the Symphony's fire pattern, not attempting to dodge or evade but absorbing punishment while closing range with suicidal determination. This was exactly what Zephyrian tactical computers had predicted humans would do. What they hadn't predicted was Captain Morrison's next order. "All hands, prepare for ramming speed. Alex, overload everything we have. We're going to end this the old-fashioned way, Chen's voice came over the intercom, mixing terror and excitement. Fusion reactors at 150% capacity. Hull integrity at 60% and falling. Weapons drawing power beyond rated limits. We've got maybe 3 minutes before something critical fails. Then we'd better make them count, Morrison replied. The Defiance accelerated beyond all rational limits, its hull groaning under forces that should have torn the ship apart. The vessel fought like humanity itself, crude, violent, and absolutely unwilling to quit. Admiral Vex Prime watched in growing horror as his perfect tactical solution crumbled against an opponent that refused to behave rationally. The Symphony's weapons inflicted terrible damage on the approaching human vessel, yet it continued to close distance. Their defensive systems absorbed incredible punishment, yet the humans kept firing. Admiral, they're not following any known tactical doctrine, his tactical officer reported. Our countermeasures are ineffective against opponents who ignore logical self-preservation. Then we adapt, Vex Prime ordered. All weapons, maximum fire rate. Destroy them before they can reach close combat range. But the humans had already entered close combat range, and they brought rules that no galactic military academy had ever taught. The Defiance grappled with the Symphony, hull to hull, turning the space battle into something resembling an ancient naval engagement from Earth's oceans. Human Marines wearing improvised combat gear actually boarded the Zephyrian vessel through hull breaches created by weapons fire. The fighting that followed violated every principle of civilized warfare. Instead of elegant ship-to-ship combat conducted at safe distances, the engagement devolved into hand-to-hand fighting in the corridors of both vessels. Zephyrian crew members, trained in sophisticated military tactics and advanced weapons systems, found themselves facing human soldiers who fought with whatever tools were available. The humans used emergency equipment as weapons, turned maintenance areas into fortifications, and displayed a disturbing willingness to sacrifice themselves to achieve tactical objectives. Sir, human boarding parties have reached our primary systems, a Zephyrian officer reported. They're not trying to capture our technology. They're simply destroying everything they can reach. Admiral Vex Prime realized with growing shock that the humans weren't trying to defeat his ship through superior tactics or technology. They were willing to destroy both vessels rather than accept defeat. The concept was so alien to Zephyrian, thinking that their tactical computers couldn't process it. The decisive moment came when Morrison's voice echoed through both ships via captured communication systems. Admiral, you can surrender now, or we can all go down together. Your choice. For the first time in 3,000 years of military tradition, a Zephyrian commander faced opponents who were genuinely prepared to die rather than lose. The Symphony's crew had trained for many scenarios, but never for enemies who treated mutual annihilation as an acceptable outcome. Admiral Vex Prime made the only rational decision available. He surrendered. The silence that followed echoed across the galaxy. Beings who had watched the war games for entertainment found themselves witnessing the birth of a new galactic power. The humans hadn't won through superior technology or refined tactics. They had won through sheer determination and an approach to warfare that other species found difficult to comprehend. As news of humanity's victory spread, a new understanding emerged throughout galactic civilization. Humans weren't just another species with different technology. They represented a fundamentally different philosophy of existence, one where victory was more important than survival, where impossible odds were seen as challenges rather than deterrents. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his battered, victorious ship and looked out at the galaxy that would never be the same. The war games had ended, but humanity's real war was just beginning. They had announced themselves not as peaceful explorers or wise philosophers, but as the species that would fight anyone, anywhere, with whatever weapons were available. Spectators had indeed been stunned by a human-controlled battleship charging onto the battlefield. What they hadn't realized was that they weren't just watching a battle. They were witnessing the emergence of a new type of warfare, one that would force every military power in the galaxy to reconsider everything they thought they knew about combat. Humanity had found its place among the stars. Now they just had to keep it. and the galaxy was beginning to understand that might be more difficult than anyone had imagined. The humans had proven they could win against impossible odds, but more importantly, they had proven they were willing to fight those battles in the first place. The age of human warfare had begun, and the galaxy would never be quite as peaceful again.